The recent earthquake in Colombia will be a major political test for new President Abelardo de la Espriella, who has declared an economic emergency. Touring the worst-hit regions, he promised an emergency fund to rebuild schools, hospitals and homes. But reconstruction is expected to cost around $9.6 billion, putting pressure on an economy already facing a deficit of 7 to 8% of GDP, according to the finance minister. He's asked US President Donald Trump to suspend tariffs, which rose from 10% to 12.5% last month. They have close ties with Washington, pledging $1 billion to Colombia just hours after the president's inauguration. Jorge Restrepo is a professor of economics at Javeriana University. He says the key issue will be sourcing funds to rebuild some of the poorest areas destroyed by the quake.
We were on a slow-growing path towards recovery from the post-pandemic. We were not growing rapidly. Unemployment was still high, but lowering down. Inflation was rising. We were running a very high deficit, the largest in Colombia's history. And there was no room, given that imprudent fiscal policies of the previous government to tackle this type of emergency. Then it's a huge economic shock, one that probably will reduce the economic activity for the next 2 years. And the main challenge for the government is to find how to finance that reconstruction. That is one of the challenges, how to simultaneously address the infrastructure destruction, public infrastructure destruction in those areas which are rather poor, like the Chocó department. But also one has to remember that the cities, the largest cities, including Cali, were also heavily affected under infrastructure. Then it's a dual challenge for the government, and still there has been no details about the extent of the reconstruction, how the government is going to fund it. It is very difficult for the government to increase taxes because they were already very high, probably the highest in the entire Western Hemisphere and certainly in the region.